Welcome to Confessions of a Male Feminist. This podcast is dedicated to unlearning, relearning, and speaking up. I'm your host, Jared McFoy. Now, you may not know who I am, and if this is your first introduction to me, allow me to formally introduce myself. My name is Jared Nicholas DeMarco McFoy. I am 26 years old, and professionally, I am an educator and a self published author. So, let's get into who I am. I was born in the mining town of Linden. I'm from Guyana, and Linden is one of the towns in Guyana in Region 10. Um, I grew up in a single parent household, and my mom has four children, which means that I grew up around three other siblings. My father, on the other hand, he has two children with his wife. So in total, I have two plus three, five siblings. Even though I was born in the mining town of Linden, we went back to Perica because that's where my mom is from. But most of my life, I've literally spent it in Frieslas, and that's on the east coast of Demorara. That's where I live, and that's where I'm recording this podcast. I grew up, I went to the nursery school in my community, I went to the primary school, and then I was fortunate enough to gain a place at President's College. That's one of the senior secondary schools in Guyana. From there, I went to the Cyril Potter College of Education, where I earned an associate degree in education. And after my studies there, I was placed at the secondary school called Annadale Secondary School, where I taught for 7 years and 2 months. After a year because I finished teacher training college in 2017, I took a year. When I finished, I started teaching. So in that year, I did induction. I was inducted into the teaching system under the great mentorship of Miss Dindial. And then I started University of Ghana, where I pursued my bachelor's degree. Now, we have a unique system here in Ghana where you do spend 2 years at the Sir Porter College of Education, and then you spend another 2 years at the University of Ghana to complete your bachelor's degree in English. So the 2 years from college connects to the 2 years at the degree level. So I spent 2 years. I finished my degree in the pandemic, COVID 2020, and then I recently graduated from pursuing my postgraduate diploma in higher education. I started that postgraduate diploma in 2023, and I finished it in 2024, and I graduated with a distinction, which was a goal of mine. I got a 3.8 GPA. Of the seven courses I did, I got six A's and one B, and that one B displeased me out because let me tell you, that B, I got a 7 to 1. I was short of the A by 4 marks. And when I went over the work that my lecturer marked, my research, I felt like she was biased in her marking, but honestly, I didn't want to fight it. So it is what it is. And I'm currently pursuing a Master's of Arts in Education. The program has either 7 or 8 courses, and I'm at the third one. So that's on the professional side. In 2022, I made the decision to self publish my first book, and it's entitled By Grace Through Faith, A Journey of Self Discovery. And you can, as you're listening to this episode, you can actually go on Amazon and you'll find that book. And, as this podcast relationship develop, I'll talk a little bit more about that journey, why I wrote the book, and how things have went. Because if I'm honest with you, after that, me publishing the book and so on, like all the pre-launch promotion I had planned to do, I just stopped. And this year it's going to make 3 years since I have that book. So I decided recently I really was inspired to order some more copies. So I made the order last night, and before the month is out, I will have those copies, and I'm going to be intentional about marketing them, and just getting back on that bandwagon to see how many more books I can sell. Yeah, so feel free to go and check that out. It's also on Kindle. Yes, Amazon Kindle. All right. So, as an educator, as an author, I've been privileged to do so many things in my life. I've been so privileged to do so many things because currently, as an educator, I'm no longer in the classroom teaching secondary school students, but I'm teaching adults. So I'm a full time lecturer at the Therapeutic College of Education, which is something I really wanted to do. So, like right now, my life looks like I lecture there full time at the Turkine Center, and then I'm a part time lecturer at the Georgetown Center. And I've been at the Georgetown Center since 2021. Yes, since 2021. Yes, since 2021. Look at that. Two, three, four, five. This year is going to make 4 years since I've been with that center. And, I just have a beautiful life, a simple life, and I'm here. So let's get into the things. Now, why do I want to have a podcast? To be honest with you all, this was not like an idea that came from me. I felt like it came from God in that in December, I was just so inspired, and the thought came to me, you know what? I should start a podcast and start a podcast with a niche in terms of like, I am a feminist, I'm a male feminist. In my life, I don't think I could identify other male feminists. So I'm an anomaly in this regard. And when I examine why I am a feminist, it makes sense. It makes complete sense. Um, how did I? I'm trying to find the right words. How did I end up here? Like I said earlier, my mom, I grew up with my mom and my siblings. So I grew up with a matriarchal figure. She's very strong in her leadership. That's all I knew in terms of leadership. And before my small brother was born, in the house, I was the only male. So I grew up with a lot of feminine energy, with around a lot of women. Most of my teachers in in nursery school, all my teachers were females. In primary school, all my class teachers were females. The school at the time, and I think even to today, the primary school I went only had one male teacher. And oh, when I was in between grade 5 and 6, we had a deputy and an HM, and both of them were men. All right, and they were very good. They were very good. Um, so I've always been around women. I've always had great respect for women. But as I grew older, I realized that the kind of respect I have for women, society don't have that respect for women. The world don't have that respect for women. And when I really like had made a conscious decision to say, "Oh, I am a feminist," that would have been in 20. Let me get the year right. So I started Eugene 2018. In 2019, that was when I started my final year of my degree program. I chose a course called Women in Literature 1, and then in the following semester, I did Women in Literature 2. And that course was dedicated to studying women in literature, their contributions, and we had a lot of discussion on feminism and all the things. And I remember, I think it was either the beginning of the course or the end of the course, or at both points, my lecturer, Miss, we'll call her Miss APC, because that's her initials. She really she asked the question, are you I think she did at the beginning of the semester, and then to the end, after we've explored all the material, she was like, are you a feminist? And for me, my answer is yes. Now, if you ask me what I think a feminist is or what is feminism, for me, I think as a feminist, I believe in the equality of the sexes. What do I mean by that? While I understand that biologically men are different from women, I do not believe that biology should be a factor in how they are treated and respected. I think we should all be respected the same way and have the same kind of opportunities being presented. And in our world today, we see because of sex and because of gender, there is a great disparity in how individuals are treated. And a lot of times, women get the bad end of the stick. And that's something that really upsets me, and I feel very sad about it. And because, like I said, I grew up around women, I just have this deep reference for them. When I went to secondary school, that was my first introduction to like having a male teachers. And if I'm honest with you, I didn't like them. Like there was always this battle of the ego. I always felt like they wanted to challenge me in some way, and I wanted to challenge them in some way. So I wasn't really appreciative of a lot of the male teachers that I would have worked with in secondary school. And then when I went to tertiary institution, I had to work with males again and females, and I didn't really have a good relationship with a lot of the males. All right, I didn't like them. If I'm honest with you, I really did not like them. So doing that course for a year, it really allowed me to see the world differently. And I said, you know what? I'm a feminist. And, I was very loud and proud about it. I shared about it. And obviously, persons judge me because one thing I've realized as I would have interacted with a lot of people and as I continue to interact with people, I realized that feminism and what a feminist is or who a feminist is, there's a lot of misconceptions, or a lot of people, especially in the church space, their view of feminism is very skewed. And it's skewed to, I want to get this right, it is skewed to radical feminism. So, because a lot of people, what they know about feminism, it would be through the radical lens. They feel like all feminists are the same. I remember I once had a conversation with an individual, and the individual was like, I'm not a feminist and so on. But I went on to see that person live a very feminist life. Do you understand what I'm saying? In terms of understanding their value and worth, standing 10 toes down, and that I'm not allowing themselves to be subjected to their husband in a way that is domineering. So I would always look at them and smile. And I have seen my impact of having these discussions and making posts about them. So with this podcast, I just want to like it says in the log line, this podcast is all about unlearning, relearning, and speaking up. I'm using this podcast as a way for me to advocate for myself and advocate for others. And at all times, I really want it to be a positive space for everyone who wants to listen, especially women. Because in my life, like I've said, women have really championed me. I love women so much. I respect them so much. And I want to make them happy to the best of my ability. And I want them to know that even as a male, that, you know, they're safe around me and that they can trust me and that I don't see them as a commodity or an object of pleasure, but someone with great value and respect. So when they say the future is female, I'm really not anti that at all. All right. So, yes, that's how I came to feminism. You know, and that, like I said, the courses Women in Literature 1 and 2, they've really had a great impact on my life. So what are some things that you can expect in this podcast? In this podcast, I'm going to be talking about, books I've read that I believe are very much feminist in nature that I want to recommend to you. I am going to be looking at hot topics as it relates to race, gender, sex and sexuality, but all of it surrounding how we treat this gender dynamic, how we deal with people, and I really want to look at heavily how the patriarchy continues to wreak havoc in the world today. Come on, somebody. How the patriarchy wreaks havoc in society today. Now, for those of you wondering when we talk about patriarchy, what are we talking about? A simple definition would be that the patriarchy is a social system in which men hold primary power and dominate in roles of political leadership, moral authority, social privilege, and control over property. It often extends to institutions such as the family, workplace, government, and religious organizations where male authority is prioritized and upheld. In a patriarchal society, Traditional gender roles often place men in leadership and decision making positions while expecting women to take on subordinate or caregiving roles. This system can manifest in laws, cultural norms, and institutional biases that reinforce male dominance and limit gender equality. Feminism critiques patriarchy by advocating for equal rights, opportunities, and dismantling gender based discrimination. I want us to think about that. I want us to think about that. You know, when I stepped into the awareness of feminism, what it's about, and all the things, I realized I was like, wait, in real, because I'm a Christian. Let me say that I'm a Christian, but I'm at a different place in my Christianity where I'm challenged, like I'm deconstructing my faith, but I'm deconstructing it at my own pace. Because there's some things that are presented to me or to the body that I think we need to like really examine. One example that comes to mind in the church realm, where in the church organization I'm a part of last year, we had to get a new presiding bishop for the country. And I remember only males were being like put forward and nominated. So I asked the question. I said, females can't get the room. No, they only want men. Now, mind you, in the church organization I'm a part of, it's made up of mostly females. You have a lot of female pastors because where I am at my church, we're pastored by a woman. And I remember one time in my younger years having the then national bishop line up all the pastors. And at that time, we had how many female pastors? I think we had three. And he was basically alluding or trying to say that, you know, we can't let the females come up and outnumber the men. Mind you, it was only three female pastors at that time. And to this day, it now gone on to two because one recently died. As I'm speaking to you, a night of reflection is happening for her in her community. So that was like a red flag. But at the time, I didn't really pick up on it. But when I think back on it in hindsight, and the fact that the national church or the international church, they don't want women to hold that, it tells me something. It is telling me something. So what we're seeing happening is that in every space, men are elevated. And that's why when it comes to patriarchy, we say it's a social something that filters into other systems. When we think about religions, and a lot of times, who is being presented as God, it's a male figure. We have to question these things, you know, in every area. In politics, I would always look at the amount of men that are nominated to be ministers and the lack of women there or the amount is not proportional. We need to think about these things. And the thing with the patriarchy and all the things that it does is that you see when women are infiltrated and indoctrinated into that, they are strong forces in upholding those structures. So every time I see a woman say things like, oh, I don't know why we have to get gender equality, all this, I'm like, wow. Like, did you know that women were not able to like vote? Or that women weren't able to own property and all of these things, and like women had to really fight for the right to vote, fight for the right to enter the work. Like all, like when you think about the fight and the journey women have had to come through to be where they are today, and they're still fighting for rights in every space, reproductive rights and job equality in terms of payment. It's a crazy thing. So with this podcast, this is my contribution to this topic. This is how I feel about it. And I'm going to be unlearning some stuff with you. I'm going to be relearning some stuff with you. And most importantly, I'm going to be using my voice as an advocate. Now, I don't know it all, but I know a lot and I'm still learning. And I hope that this can be a safe space for everyone listening. Now, to wrap up this episode, I want to do a few things. Now, one, I would like to make a book recommendation. The first book that I read in 2025 is a book called Loud by Drew Afualo. And I don't know if you know about Drew Afualo, but I really love Drew Afualo. On TikTok, she's really built her platform off of grilling and going after misogynistic men. And, you know, when I read her book, one thing that really stood out to me is when she said, all men benefit from the patriarchy. That's something I had to unlearn because I, in my mind, I used to say, no, I'm a male feminist. I don't benefit from the patriarchy. But I realized that, yes, I do. With how I'm treated and respected in certain regards in comparison to women, I have to be honest. All men do benefit. Not saying that at the same time, men aren't affected by the patriarchy, because I have been in many ways, because I don't fit into a lot of people ideal of a macho man or a very masculine man, and I've accepted that. Okay, it is what it is, and that's how they feel. I gotta know who I am. By the end of the day, it's really something for us to think about, that all men do benefit from the patriarchy. So that's like the thing I took away from our book, and I started analyzing and assessing. Okay, let me look to see how I'm benefiting from the patriarchy, and let me see how I navigate that space to ensure that I am not subjecting and suppressing the people I'm around, especially women. So I think if you like reading books about feminism and to give a boost to you as a woman or as a young lady and to educate you as a man, that's my book recommendation for today. And the topical issue that I'd like to quickly address with you all now, in Ghana, some crazy things have been happening. We always have a high rate as it relates to men killing women. We had one only the other day. It really made me almost cry with this woman. She has 7 children. She was with this abusive man. She moved out. But I don't know what happened, because this part isn't clear in the reporting, but she went back to the home that she used to live with this abusive man, and her child, I think, went home for lunch, and the child discovered that she was dead, and the father was walking out of the yard with the blade, blood on his face, and he's gone into hiding. I'm waiting for the update to see that he is captured, but he killed her. And I would always ask the question, why do these men feel comfortable to kill women? But I feel like a lot of them feel comfortable because there's this ownership. A lot of times when I sit and listen to how men speak about their girlfriend or their wife, I'm like, oh, so you have this entitlement. You feel this entitlement to this woman, that you own her, you control her. And once again, religion contributes to that. In Christianity, when they get married, and Christians are getting married, they like to quote that scripture, when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing. I really dislike the use of that word thing. Once again, commodifying that woman. And a lot of times you'll find, you see these bike people, how they interrupt my recording? You'll find that whenever at a wedding, especially if they think that the woman is a virgin, they'll always talk and hint to the sex and all the things, and cheering on the guy to say yes. It's always a bias something to basically say yes, you're going to be the first one to go there. That's your playing field. You're going to get to dominate and all these things. And it usually makes women very uncomfortable. I remember I went to a wedding of a young person, and the sister of the bride came to me. She said, I don't know why they keep talking about um, the sex and so on is making her so uncomfortable. Like she's very uncomfortable. And once again, it's big men doing it. Not the women at the wedding, it's the big men who talking about. It's like it's just a weird and perverted space. But a lot of time it's so ownership. It's the ownership. And I hope that, and I always say, Lord, give women the strength to leave these abusive relationships. Please give them a way out, because once again, I understand leaving, we a person's on the outside could look and critique and say, man, you best leave the man. But it's easier said than done. So I always pray first that they find the strength, because they have to find that strength within themselves to know that they deserve better and to find that way out. And it may not be easy when they get out there, but to find back their footing and to do what they have to do. So, with that said, this brings me to the end of episode 1 of Confessions of a Male Feminist. I look forward to building a relationship with you in this podcasting space. I know right now the podcasting world feels very oversaturating, but I hope that my offering to it um, is going to be able to bless someone. So until we meet again, I plan to have weekly episodes. And the goal is to have those episodes uploaded every Sunday, Monday, the latest. So I'm your host, Jared McFoy. I love you. Know that you have worth, know that you have value, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. Welcome to Confessions of a Male Feminist.